I now call the January 5th, 2022 meeting of the Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals to order. And somebody want to do the roll call?
I can do the roll call. Margaret Clemens.
Here.
Bernie Garitas.
Here.
Skip Daly. Mary Beth Kasmarchik.
Here.
Vicki Sorensen.
Here.
So far we have 4 members and a quorum. Unless I missed Skip.
Just missing Skip? Okay.
Yeah.
Did we get a reply as to whether he was going to be with us this evening?
We did not receive a reply, so I think it's safe to assume he's may not be able to join us.
Okay. Yeah, in that case, so let's move on to the introduction of the evidence.
Okay, I requested the following items be introduced as evidence for tonight's meeting. Monroe County's comprehensive plan is adopted and amended. Monroe County zoning ordinance is adopted and amended. Monroe County subdivision ordinance is adopted and amended. The rules of procedure of the Board of Zoning Appeals and the case is advertised and docketed for hearing on tonight's agenda.
I move that the evidence be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the evidence for tonight's meeting be introduced into the record. A vote in favor is vote to approve the introduction of evidence. Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
Mary Beth Kasmarchik.
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen.
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
The evidence is introduced by approval of a 4-0 vote.
All right. Any changes to the agenda?
I don't believe so. Is there, Jackie?
Okay. I move for approval of the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the agenda for next meeting be approved as presented. Vote in favor is vote to approve tonight's agenda. Mary Beth Kasmarchik.
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen.
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
Tonight's agenda is approved by a 4-0 vote.
All righty. Everybody have a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. I move that the minutes for August be approved. It doesn't actually say that on the agenda, but I believe they were August. Was that correct? That were sent?
That was correct.
Okay. Anybody second that?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion is to approve the August BZA minutes as presented. A vote in favor is vote to approve the minutes. Mary Beth Kasmarchik.
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen.
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes.
Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
All right. And under old business, it looks like we have our first case, and that is case numbers VAR-21-61. Whoops, I skipped ahead. I'm sorry. VAR-21-53A, VAR-21-53B, and VAR-21-53C. And Drew, that's you. Are you here tonight?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. So this is the Perry buildable area variance for 15% sloped, chapter 804, and the Perry eco area 3 variance for 18% slope, chapter 825. We have heard this petition in the past. It's out on South Spring Branch Road. It's a parcel of land, 1.33 acres in Perry Township. And the petitioners are Mark and Clara Perry. The last time we had left off with this petition, we had some additional information requested from the health department regarding the septic permit. And we have now enough information to bring it forward to you this evening. A little bit of summary and background. Originally, there was 3 design standards variances requested from Chapter 804, 825, and 833 for this petition site. That was for the buildable area, 15% slope, eco area 3 slope at 18%, and the front yard setback. The last one, front yard setback variance, that was approved during the September meeting, September 1st, 2021. And the remaining variances received a split vote, so they were automatically continued on to the next meeting. And then at that next meeting, the petition got continued until tonight's meeting due to that outstanding septic information that I was talking about. So to refresh your memory, the purpose of this petition is to construct a 1,384 square foot single family residence with a 624 square foot attached garage and a 564 square foot deck / porch space. The deck is to be located in slopes greater than 15% and 18%, and the proposed structure will also encroach into the 25-foot front yard setback, which was approved via the variance approval in September. I shall also state that I believe the entirety of the proposed structures will also be encroaching into the 15%, just based upon where that slope line is delineated. Everywhere on the property is beyond the 15% slope. So some more refreshers. Originally, before the petition came to the board, the planning director had communicated to the petitioner that neither a slope waiver from Chapter 804 or a slope exception from Chapter 825 would be granted for this property, and that is in Exhibit 7 in the staff report. Planning staff also recommended a 2-story redesign of the proposed structure to help minimize slope disturbance. The petitioner has now accommodated such a design, but still has a significant amount of encroachment into the sloped areas. Planning staff recommended to include the front yard setback variance to minimize slope disturbances. Again, that was approved. And then finally, the Monroe County Health Department renewed a septic permit on November 15th, 2021. And then there was some additional time taken to evaluate the soil in the area, as well as to stake out the exact location, because there was some confusion between surveyor and health department staff about the exact location that was suitable for a septic system. So to get into that a little bit more, the original septic permit was issued in March 13th, 2001, and then it was renewed again in July 14th, 2006. Recent septic permit renewal, we had one come in through on July 11th, 2021, and then again, as I stated, reissued on November 15th, 2021. At that time, after the November 15th renewal, further review from health department staff determined that the area previously approved needed to be reevaluated as the absorption field was located in an area of backfilled soil and would require additional soil testing. Once that was accomplished, there was some additional time taken to evaluate exactly where that location is and stake it out appropriately on the petition site. The new site plan that has been provided by the petitioner and the petitioner's representatives in Exhibit 4 delineates where that approved septic field is located on the property. It is now on the northern section of the property instead of the southern section. And then health department staff also reminded us that there are some required distances for a septic system, and that is 5 feet separation from property line and 10 feet separation from any structures. When we get through this presentation, I believe that some members of the health department staff are on the call. So if we have lingering questions for them, I'm sure that they can answer them for you. All right, so here's the slope map of this petition site. As you can see, anything, basically anything yellow, green, or more is higher than 15%. And then anything yellow or orange or red is higher than the 18%. So the site is very constrained from a slope standpoint. Here we have some pictures of the petition site. The public notice sign here, and you can see the gradual slope, the gradual grade that goes down into the ravine on this pictures. Some more pictures of the site. Extremely wooded right now. The site has remained vacant for quite some time. I'm just going to go through these just to kind of give you a refresher of what the site looks like from a slope standpoint. Again, you can see the Tucker sign up here. So that's where the road is. So pretty substantial grade. And then more pictures here. Okay. This is table 1. It's included in your staff report. So the petitioner with this newest edition of their site plan, and after all has been said and done with the septic permit and such, they did offer some additional revisions to the proposal. So those are included here now in table 1. They're a little bit different than the last time you saw this. So the first floor is 1,384 square feet. It's a 35% reduction from the original, or the previous proposed residence, I should say, of 2,128 square feet. So total square footage overall, we see approximately 27% reduction. And then also this last row on this table is estimated encroachment to 18%. This was evaluated with staff. So this is an estimate using an analysis tool on the site plan, and it appears that there will be an 18% reduction in the encroachment into the 18% area of the slopes. So that's 1,795 square feet from 2,196 square feet. So we have seen some reduction in the proposed plans. Okay. So here we have the full versions of the site plans. They're kind of hard to see. So on the next few slides, I have them zoomed in. But on the left-hand side of the screen, you have the new proposed site plan. You can see here up in the northeast corner, the proposed, the approved septic field location. And then on the right side of the screen, you have the previous proposed site plan, and the septic field was down here. All right, so here is a zoom in of the new proposed site plan. Again, you'll note the approved septic field up here in the northwest corner of the property. And then this darker line is the 18% line. So you'll note that majority of the home and structures proposed will be encroaching to that 18%. And then over here on the far west side or left side of your screen is the 15% line. So again, the entirety of the property is essentially over the 15% delineation. Here's the previous approved site plan zoomed in. You note that you can't see the approved septic field in this version because it's farther to the south. But again, here we have the 15% line. And actually on this site plan, we didn't have the 18% line delineated yet. But there was another version that I used for the calculations that had it delineated. Okay, here's the new proposed schematic for the proposed structure. We can come back to any of these if we'd like. This is the second floor. And here's the previous proposed schematic that was all one floor. So a reduction in bedrooms and overall square footage for between these two versions. Here we have the renewal permit that was issued in November 15th, 2021. Here we have the explanation from the planning director to the petitioner's representatives regarding the inapplicability of the administrative waiver for the 15% slope, as well as the Chapter 825 slope exception. And here we have letters of support. So we did receive some letters from neighbors or individuals that live in the area, and they were all showing some support for the development of this site, basically stating that the petitioners are very capable of completing this, and that they are intending on doing a good job with the architecture and such. And then here is an additional letter of support. I believe there are a few of these that were included in your staff report, but I believe I forgot to include some of them. So if you want to come back to any of these to review them, we can make some time for that. Okay, so here we have the staff recommendation. I will take a moment quickly to announce also that the petitioners have also submitted a written commitment draft that's basically stating that they intend to engage in all best management practices and any other practices that will reduce the amount of disturbance into the sloped areas. And that draft written commitment is included in your staff report. So if we want to look at that, I have another page that we can pull up and take a look. But it's just another layer or another exhibit included in the report pertaining to the development of this site. Okay, so that being said, overall staff recommendation has remained consistent for this property. And that is denial of both the 15% slope buildable area variance, as well as the Eco Area 3 slope variance, citing that there are no practical difficulties. They're essentially self-created. Specifically, slope issues can be more effectively addressed through further efforts to redesign of the development building structure. The new site plan can move it farther into the setback, the front setback area, as well as other redesign tactics. I will now take any questions.
Any questions for Drew from staff? No questions? Okay, is the petitioner here? Would they like to speak?
Unmute.
Hello,
Hello.
Hello.
here we are.
Okay.
Again. Well, we hope-
Which one of you will be speaking at the moment?
oh, Mark.
Clara.
Daniel.
Okay, Mark,
Tu primero.
I need you to state your name.
Okay, here. Clara Perry.
And what's your name, sir?
And I'm Mark Perry.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes, we do. I do.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I just want to say good evening and thank you for taking the time to review our new proposal. That's all I have to say for now.
Yeah, me too. We tried our best to accommodate as much as we can to make something beautiful and pleasant for everyone in the neighborhood. So I hope you will take this into consideration.
Does the
Thank
board
you.
have any questions for the petitioners?
Yeah, I've got I think a quick question, Margaret.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't know if I was on the right mute. I'm wondering with the petitioners, when were you prepared to build this fall based on what you had originally had drawn up and planned for your home or for the structure?
Well, I will try to build it as soon as possible, as soon as we can. Yes.
I'm sorry, last fall, excuse me, fall of 2021. Pardon my manners. I didn't speak.
That's okay. It's a new year.
Yeah, right.
Well, I have been trying to have this approved, so I don't know, as soon as it's approved, we plan to build.
Okay,
So, yeah. Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Margaret, or Mary Beth, you're muted.
Now you know why. Are there any further questions for the petitioner?
Mary Beth, this is Mike Carmen. I'd like to speak on behalf of the petitioner. I'm counsel for petitioner. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Todd Borgman's also on. I would anticipate that Todd will have some comments regarding the site plan and the process they've been through. But I want to put this petition in context a little bit. when this was heard before, and Drew made reference to a prior meeting and a vote on that, that was not a decision vote. I noted that one of the concern with the staff's recommendation for denial in a finding, and it remains in the staff report. Again, they made some other changes to the staff report, show some updates, and basically in a red line font format, so you can identify changes. But what's still in that, and it goes back to Drew's comment about the staff recommendation for denial, is that there are no practical difficulties. And frankly, their own staff report says that that's not correct. I mean, they've already noted that the entire property is in the 15-degree slope. This property cannot be built on without a variance on at least on the 15% slope requirement. That by itself says there's a practical difficulty. This lot has been in existence since 1978. That's according to the staff. I think I can document that this lot has existed as a standalone lot since 1962. So we're talking either 42 years or closer to 60 years that this lot has been a standalone, separately described lot, capable. Of course, the problems we have now are the ordinance adoptions, the slope area, the 15% slope, the ECO OLAs have come in existence since this lot was created. If I can do share file, I want to show you just, and I'll be quick on this, just to put this in context. See if I can get this done right and share screen. Okay. Well, they're not showing it. Sorry, don't mean to prolong this. Here we go, Swan. There are three properties surrounding us, north, south, and west of this. This happens to be one of the three. This, well, it just disappeared on me, didn't it? Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Let me see what I do. So I don't know if I can enlarge anymore. The only reason I'm showing this is not a critique or criticism of any of the structures around it or the use of it at all. But when you look at this, what I want to put in context.
Mike, we're not seeing anything.
You're not, okay, I thought it was on share screen. Is it not? Try it again. Is that better? Is it showing now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I can further enlarge to help at all. Okay, just a quick comment on it. Nothing, actually not a critique of the structure at all, not at all. All I want you to do is, as you take a look at it, look to the right margin of the photograph and the step down in the structure. You can look to the left side of the photograph and see that the block, I assume there's the sandstone and limestone block wall on that lower level. It's very clear that this is built into the side of a slope. I don't think it's pretty obvious from that. Looking at that, so that's the one to the west. This is the one, I believe. This is this was to the north, and you can see on the right. Why do they keep disappearing? I don't know what I'm doing. Same thing. You can see that to the right side of the photograph, how the lower level clearly is down slope, clearly built into the side of a slope. And quickly, the last one. This is one to the south, and it's not along the main level of the structure. No, it just looks to be flatter. But if you look at the left side of the photograph a little bit, you can see the backside. You can even see what I'll call it a stilt, the post support, because that also the slope breaking off there. There's what appears to be a deck there that clearly is built out over a slope area. So the context of this neighborhood is that structures have been built successfully, maintained successfully in the slope area. No one has come forth to indicate any ongoing problems with these structures causing, and the use of them causing erosion or siltation or being a problem with slopes. What that would tell you is that the issue with the slopes is during construction, and that's the purpose of the commitment that's been made, is that construction techniques, erosion control plans would all be in place to protect it until ground stabilization. Once construction is done, we end up with a structure that is really no different than those three surrounding ones. And then this is the last one that I want to comment on. And same thing, I assume you can still see this one, but I pulled this information just off the property record card available on the Elevate programs, available through the auditor's office. But use the numbers on the property record card. The structure to the north is on a lot of 2.11 acres. The PRC show for tax assessment purposes, they show square footage of improvements at 4,160 square feet. If you just do the math, that's just under 2,000 square feet of improvements per acre. The Prairie Lot is next, and you see the calculation based on the numbers that on that chart that Bruce showed you earlier. It's just a little bit more than 1,800 square feet. The one to the south is over 1,900 square feet per acre. If you just take the improvements off the PRC card and apply it to the acreage, and then the one to the west is quite a bit larger. Again, the Perry proposed development with this lot from a square foot per acre of improvements is the smallest of the 4 structures in this immediate area. Perry being proposed, the others all in existence. So I just wanted you to have that, the context of what is being proposed is a reasonable use of the property, and the reasonableness is demonstrated by how it fits in spacing, size, and locations with existing structures that have already been developed in the neighborhood. As to other matters, I'm going to defer to Todd for any comment on the site plan and how it's been configured onto the property. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Carmen on the board? No one on the board has any questions for Mr. Carmen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call on Todd Borgman to unmute himself as he is the applicant on this petition. Mr.
Yes, I'm
Borgman,
here.
do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can proceed, please.
So yes, so just a few things here. I know everyone's seen this a few times here, so I'll try to make it brief. But so the whole intention with this site plan and the layout the entire time with working with the Perrys was to try to match the surrounding houses, which Mike alluded to as well. Obviously, there are some practical difficulties in the fact that the entire property is essentially over the 15% slope line. There's no gain around that fact. And the majority of the houses around it are as well. So I know staff had recommended a couple other changes. So we did add the second story. We did reduce the footprint, which they asked for. The other thing they asked for was to move the house closer to the road. And talking with the Perrys and doing the math, and it's shown on the new site plan, we tried to keep it even with the other houses as far as the distance off the road, not necessarily the property line. Some other houses and or pools or garages are closer than the 48 to 45 feet that they're proposing. But we feel like this is the best to keep with the integrity of the neighborhood, is to keep it that far off of the road and not necessarily the property line.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Borgman? Not seeing any questions for Mr. Borgman. Okay. Mr. Chadwick, would you like to speak on behalf of this petition?
We're not speaking on behalf of the petition. We're speaking against the petition.
Okay, hold on just a moment then.
All right.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here that you wishes? Larry, can I help you? Larry, you have your hand up and you're on mute.
Yeah, I just have a question. Because Todd said that the entire site was greater than 15% slope. And I just want to get clarification. My understanding is a on-site septic system cannot be put in an area that's greater than 15% slope. And I just want to clarify what the situation is. I thought the area where the septic is going was the 15% less slope area. So if somebody could just clarify what the actual slope is where the septic tank is going, that would be useful.
Drew, do you have that information?
I do not. I'm looking at the on screen here, and you can see the 15% line delineated here. And then of course the approved septic location here. So maybe from someone from the health department staff will have more to speak on regarding the location of the septic field.
Or if I may speak, so it's, and I've been on site with Ryan and we've met and walked the site. That the 15% slope line is clear, as well as the 18%. It is very consistent at that 15% until you reach the 18%. And then it does drop off after that.
Does that answer your question, Larry?
Maybe I'm confused. I thought there was a maximum slope of 15% for an on-site system to go in.
Hi, this is Ryan. I'm the lead wastewater sanitarian with the health department. And 15% is the maximum slope for a septic field. And this site is at 15%, right at it, where we approved the septic field.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. All right, that answers your question, Larry.
Yes.
All right, and is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition? Not seeing anyone that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition. Would anyone like to speak against this petition? And I believe Peter's got his hand up there. And Peter, do you please state your name?
Peter Chadwick.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, sir, you can proceed.
We have a couple of issues with this, of course, or else I wouldn't be speaking against it. First of all, there's a couple, the erosion thing, if we're already, my house and the one north of us, if we're already built into the slope, if we put another house in between ours, isn't that going to cause some erosion problems? Because no houses in this neighborhood are that close to each other. So you have this house that's going to be shoehorned between mine and the next one north. And of course, there's going to be some digging. There's going to have to be some excavation. And there's a creek down at the bottom of the ravine that feeds into Monroe Reservoir. So I don't think it's a good idea. Not an engineer, but seems to me that the more we disturb the area, the worse it's going to be. And of course, we got that slope. The other thing is this house is going to defy the character of the neighborhood as well. Once again, it doesn't match up with the rest of the houses. It won't look the same. It'll be up on the road. So it's going to be crowding the road. We won't be able to do any kind of future widening of the road with this house sitting right on top of it. And it's on the smallest lot in the entire neighborhood, which means it's too close. Most of us moved out here because of the spacing, and basically they're squeezing this in. I also understand that this property used to be part of the property that I'm sitting on. So that's all I have for the moment. Oh, my wife would like to speak.
Hi, I'm Sherry Chadwick.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I did have a question. Since they moved the septic system, how does that change that front yard setback? Is the front yard setback still the same since they've moved the septic system and then moved the house?
I'm not sure. This is not the time for the public to ask questions. This is the time for the public to either speak for or against the petition.
Okay, well, that was my question. And then I understand the gentleman said that they're trying to match the house with the existing structures. The existing structures have been here and have been built under the code at the time. So we are already, all of the houses, there are no new houses. I mean, and so the houses were built during the code at the time. And they're building the smallest house on the smallest lot, and it's going to be right up against the road, which is against what the property deed says that it's supposed to be. It's not that we don't like neighbors. It's that, and that our houses sit on a slope to begin with. And we're trying to keep all our trees and everything to keep the erosion from happening. It's naturally happening. Our wall and our basement, and for that man to say that there's not been any changes in our structures because of erosion, that's not so, because our wall and our basement, we've had 4 guys come out and look at it, and it is a problem. We are trying to keep the natural environment. That's why we all lived out here, moved out here, and now we're going to try to squeeze this other house right in that space. I just don't see how that's right. And they're going to be right up on the road. He says that that's not going to cause a problem, but when the city came out to look at the septic, when they came out to do the drawings for the house, they parked on the road, and our neighbors had to use our driveway, our personal driveway, to get around the house, because there's no place to park to get onto that lot. So they were stopped and parked on the road, and in order to get around it, they had to cut through our driveway. You can see there wasn't any place for them to park, and some of them parked in our driveway. There's just not space there.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Does the board have any questions for either one, Mr. or Mrs. Chadwick? Okay, seeing no questions from the board, thank you. Larry, I see you have your hand up.
I just wanted to clarify that the county does not enforce restrictive covenants or deed restrictions. It's a private matter between the landowners that are subject to the restrictions who have the right to enforce the restrictions, but it's a private matter. And nothing that Board of Zoning Appeals does affects the ability of the individual landowners to enforce any restrictive covenants or deed restrictions that may exist regarding the use of the lot. Dave can chime in if you want to.
Okay. And I would also like to mention that the actual front yard setback has already been approved by the BZA board in September. So, okay. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak against this petition? I see none. Does the board have a recommendation or motion?
I can do it, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Bernie.
Okay, because I do see practical difficulties. I see it with this, with the percentage of the lot that is in the restricted slope area. The fact that I had 1993 in my notes, but I guess it possibly 1978, regardless, is before the current situation with the restrictions, and I just see a extensive amount of work that the petitioners have done in order to accommodate this home site since they found out that they needed to come and speak with the planning staff and the BZA. So to that, I move that in regard to petition VAR-21-53A, Perry Buildable Area, 15% slope variance to Chapter 804. I move that we approve the variance, and in VAR-21-53B, Perry Eco Area 3, 18% slope variance to Chapter 825. I move that we also approve that variance based on findings of fact and that practical difficulties have been set, with the condition that the written commitments of the erosion best management and construction practices that the petitioners have offered up and have put in our packet be adhered to and attached to the building permit, and based on recommendations by the Monroe County Health Department and the Highway Department.
I second.
Larry, please call the vote.
You're on mute, Larry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll call the roll on VR 21-53A and VAR 21-536 or 53B. I'm sorry. The 15% buildable area variance and the eco 18% variance respectively, based on a finding of practical difficulty, which differs from the staff report, but that the board has found practical difficulties to support the granting of both variances. Again, with the conditions and with the conditions and with the covenant or the commitments that have been provided by the petitioner would be subject to the made part of the variance approval. Again, a vote in favor is vote to grant both variants based on a finding of practical difficulties. Margaret Clemens,
No.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
Mary Bethska Smarchek,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, both variances are approved by a 3-to-1 vote.
All right. Thank you so much, and you have a good evening. Next up, we have case numbers VAR-21-61A, VAR-21-61B, and Tammy,
Yeah, hi. I am not quite prepped with the slides. Hold on just a moment. Almost there, sure of it. This was a long report. Okay, we are going to be talking about deets. They have a front yard setback variance, Chapter 804, and a slope variance to the 15% slope. We heard this back on November the 4th in 2021. I'm guessing you guys will all want a full kind of presentation again, just to review which one this was, or?
please.
Okay. So this is a 0.55 acre lot in Benton Township, North, Section 35 at 8536 North Blue Heron Drive. It's zoned SR. It's got lake frontage right along Lake Lemon. So again, there are 2 design standards being requested. The purpose of their project is to add to a single family residence a 980 square footprint 2-story addition. This would total 1,470 square feet. And then in addition, they've got another porch that they're wanting to add on of another additional 980 square feet. So really the total footprint pans out to 1,470 square feet. Sorry, I wanted to double check that with my notes. And then, so basically buildable area states that all structures should be in slopes less than 15%. The slopes where they're proposing the addition are somewhere between 25 and 35% along the Lake Lemon front. Staff was unable to issue a waiver based upon the submitted site plan, because we do have a waiver that if you're doing an addition under 1,000 square feet, sometimes the director has that liberty to issue a waiver, and there were some issues found in this case. And additionally, they need a front setback variance. The requirement is 25 feet from the right of way, and the home encroaches 7.66 feet into this into the setback. So they're not actually going to be adding into the front setback, but because the home is already within that front setback, it deems it as a pre-existing non-conforming structure. The property is on a septic system, but the health department has no record of the septic permit. The house was originally built in the 1950s. And I actually stopped by the building department today because there were some things just not adding up for me. After listening to testimony from the November meeting, it states that they had basically taken down the whole house and put this back up in the 90s. The building department and our department have no record that that was ever a permitted project. And so it is kind of uneasy that there's not a septic permit, and some of the building permits are missing back from the late 90s. If the variance is approved, then the permit that they have applied for, R-21-771, would be issued. So there is some history to this site. They were here for a variance. The Dietzes applied for a detached garage back in May of 2014 and got variances to encroach into the front setback. They basically built this garage in the only flat area on their property. There was a quote from the minutes that there's probably not anywhere on this lot outside of the setback that you could actually place a structure on. So they do have a garage that is 7.7 feet off the right of way. So they were allowed to encroach with that 17.3 feet. This kind of plays into the fact that staff sees practical difficulties. They already have taken up the buildable area that they could have done for the actual home addition rather than have the garage. So again, property is located out on Lake Lemon. It's at the end of, almost at the end of North Blue Heron Drive. This is one of the slope maps showing slopes that are just greater than 15%. But then we broke it down by staff and looked at slopes of varying degrees here. And this large tree is right behind the home. I believe their porch surrounds the trunk of it. They built the porch around this tree, which is pretty cool. This is that garage that they built in the home. I know it's a little difficult to see, but what I'm aiming at you seeing here are the red and the purples, which correspond to these 25, 36, 25, 35 foot steep slopes. Sorry. These are some aerials of the property. Again, the garage, the home, and then their back porch is right here where the addition would go. They would tear down the porch, rebuild there, and add additional porch. So this is the house from the road. This is the garage that was permitted in 2014. This is the home. And this is the home from the west side of the property where you can see the porch, that tree I described, and then these steeper slopes. Our zoning inspector got down in the ravine there to kind of show where the kind of foundation of the house is here under the porch, and then envisioning that this is all going to bump out and down. And this is a view from the east side. This one, no. I included in the packet the petitioner's request. And then here's a picture from, I'm standing on what I believe is the septic tank. There's, I think, or it could be right in here along this path. And again, this porch would be removed. The addition would be a 2-story addition, and then another porch would be reattached here. This is the site plan that was submitted to staff. So they depict a 14 by 35-foot addition and a 14 by 35-foot wood deck. And they depict the septic system here. Again, there is no record with the health department regarding the septic system. These are the house plans. The original house plans actually included an additional bedroom, and they have since removed that because a bedroom definitely would require it automatically triggers in a permit review a upgrade to the septic, most likely because they're increasing number of bedrooms. So they have changed their plans and decided not to do that. We did get one additional piece of information, well, I should say two, but in your packet, I included one additional exhibit from Weddell Plumbing. And basically they had someone come out and put a camera down through their sewer drain from the home to the clean out and down to the, they confirmed that the drain was open and flowing. They confirmed the location of the septic tank, and that is about 35 feet from the clean out access of by the house. The drain was straight, it means it didn't have any like jogs within it. I called Weddell Plumbing just to confirm that there was, that this inspection did not confirm that there was a finger system here. So again, we just as staff are not just convinced that there is an adequate septic system for this site. Staff reviewed, okay, and I did mention the building permit history, how there is some interesting, like, it's just missing. There's some items missing from the 90s. The petitioner provided an additional photo, and I just was going to include this here. This, I believe, is facing east. So I think that the house is behind us here, and they were just showing a tree had fallen over. I can show you more clearly, maybe that would be probably somewhere in this area where that tree fell towards this property, I believe. All right, so in conclusions, then the staff is going to recommend denial of both variances for buildable area 15% slopes, chapter 804, and also the front yard setback variance under chapter 804. Basically, we do not see that there are any practical difficulties in the current use of the site. It was kind of a self-created hardship that they established back in 2015 when they added the detached garage to the property. And again, we are expanding a pre-existing non-conforming structure with a septic location that is a little bit suspect with regards to, does it comply with our current standards? All right, does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Tammy?
Yeah, I've got one, Margaret, or Mary Beth, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Question, Tammy, when you were on that photo where you were shooting or directing your camera up towards the home where you thought you were just down slope, yes, thank you. Where you were just down slope of where you thought the septic tank was and the outlet pipe from the house.
I might be standing on it. I mean, if they were saying that the clean out is somewhere up near the house and there's about a 35-foot distance, according to the Well Brothers report, that I think I'm standing on at least the septic tank. Now, there is no confirmation there's a finger system that goes with it.
Did you note any septic material on the ground in that area where you were standing?
No,
Or any
but
soggy?
no.
Okay.
I mean, it's a ridge top. There's quite a bit of vegetation right there. So I can't even tell like how big the field would have been, because standing right behind me, it's just basically a trail through some woods.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any further questions for Tammy?
Mary Beth, I have a question for Tammy.
Go ahead.
Tammy, when they got the variance for the garage, was there concerns about the septic system at that time?
No, there was not. I think we were pretty certain that it wasn't put like in the front setback with the road. I think they had verbally said where it was during that process. And since it was going on the other side of the house, that was a little different scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for Tammy? Okay, is the petitioner or the representative here and would they like to speak? Paul or Shelley Dietz? Or the applicant, Dave and Ms. McCardle, are you here?
Mr. Dietz is on mute.
Is Mr. McCardle here?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Dietz, would you like to speak?
Yes,
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
yes,
Please state your name.
Paul Beats.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So thanks for having us back. We were here in November, and one of the questions was about the septic. So we had Weddle Plumbing come out just to show how far away the tank was from the project, and really to show that the drain and the septic is nowhere near any close to where we wanted to do this particular project. And as it relates to 1996, when we bought the home, it was completed. So we didn't build it. So we had a realtor and the home was done. And so in terms of, a building permit or a septic permit, my wife bought the home and closed. And so I don't know that particular issue of a building permit back in 1996 when we bought the home. We've owned it for 25 years. The house is, it hasn't been updated. Our family's growing and we want our kitchen bigger. In addition to that, if you look at one of the pictures where it shows where the tree is, all my mechanicals on this home are in a crawl space underneath, next to the tree. You can see there, yeah, back up one. You can see the little door right there, right where the arrow is. So all my mechanicals are in there, my furnace, my water heater. And for me to get in there, I have to crawl on my hands and knees to get in there. And when I bought it, I was 37 and now I'm 62 and it's hard. And part of the project stems from, we need the mechanical room. I need to be able to stand up in it. And so again, you see the wall that's in front. We want it to be, that's where the mechanicals will be underneath the house. So I can walk in and work on my system. That tree has to come out. I showed you the picture of the tree that fell. It fell 3 weeks ago in the big storm that we had. And the tree that fell was as big as this tree. And luckily it fell away from my house. That tree is 2 feet from my home and it would have destroyed our home. Always worried about it. Limbs fall off and bash on our roof constantly. So that tree's got to come out. And so that's a good time for us to fix the mechanicals. And in addition to that, we can make our kitchen bigger on top of it. So that's kind of what started all of this. So Weddle Plumbing says the septic's nowhere near this project. They come out regularly. And so that's kind of where we're.
Okay, does the board have any questions for Mr. Dietz?
Is Dave McCardle on?
Yes, I have a question, a concern.
Sorry, sir.
We're asking for questions from the board right now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Time for public comment shortly.
I had seen Dave McCardle on here.
He's here.
Okay, good.
Dave, Mr. McCardle, would you like to speak on behalf of this petition?
So Dave, if you would like to check your audio. Looks like he's having some technical difficulties, Mary Beth. He's currently frozen. Tammy, do you want me to try to call Mr. McCardle and put him on the call? I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I can do it.
Yeah, Paul, if you want to go ahead, that'd be great.
He's saying he has no audio. He said he knows he's there, but he has no audio.
Okay, yeah, he's currently frozen. Do you want to give him a call?
Okay. I know our comment, what we discussed before this was, you know, we did want to make another bedroom. And so we changed our plan based on your guys' recommendation to not add to that, but just to make the kitchen bigger and to make a lower level so we can get to our mechanicals. It's 14 feet bigger. The back of the house is a football field away from the lake. And again, it doesn't matter, I guess, but in Lake Leonard, in the 25 years I've been, the homes that are out there are massive now. In our neighborhood, they're mansions, and some are right on the water. And so Shelley and I, we don't want a mansion. We just want it to be something bigger for the grandkids and something easier for us. We've hired, David Cardle is really a top-notch builder. And his comment about what we're trying to do in this space is not that complicated. And so if it was, I wouldn't wreck my property. And everybody wants that stuff done, but that's kind of where we're coming from.
Okay, I think I see Dave back on the call on the Zoom.
Dave, can you hear us and can we hear you?
Dave, I just put some information in the chat to try and see if that can help tech solve you, but I will give you the phone number in the chat so that you can call separate. 1 second.
Okay, Mary Beth, I've got a question for the petitioner. I kind of wanted to hear what the builder had to say first, but Mr. Dietz should
Okay.
know these questions, and then if Dave's got something to add, I guess we can let him add later, but that way at least we can keep the meeting going. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dietz, have you know, the fact that there's not evidence or there's not confirmation of a finger system, do you pump this tank regularly, or you know, what happens to the effluent? Does it go into a finger system? Do you pump the tank? Because the tank is a finite volume, and it's going to spill over eventually, right?
Yes, sir. So the finger system is behind the tank towards the water down. There's a big path, and that's where the finger systems go. Reed Septic. We bought the home in '96. We had them come and check it. Remember, the house had not been lived in since 1952. So it was empty for a long time, and the tank was empty. You know, it's a summer place for us. We live in Indianapolis. And so in the 25 years that I've been there, it's been pumped twice. And every time they have to dig it up and they open it up and they're like, it's perfect. And then that's when they can see and test the finger system. Otherwise I would fix it, but it's been terrific. And so yes, it does have a finger system.
Okay, well, and the reason why I asked that is pumping a septic tank is not, I mean, that's a measure of good health for a septic system. So I'm not picking on pumping a tank, or that doesn't point me to a direction that that there's no finger system. But if it's done frequently, then that would lead me to believe that the finger system is non-functional. And I'll say there's a finger system, as you say there is, and I have no way of knowing any different. Right. And then did what happen to say what the volume of the tank is?
No.
Okay, and they may not
get
know.
That clarified.
Well, it's really not relevant. I was just kind of curious if they happen to say it, because again, you'll fill up a tank pretty quick if there's no discharge location into the finger system. So
Yeah. No, there is. I saw the tank. Again, I don't do that for a living. It's quite large, but again, in 25 years, it's been pumped twice.
and to some degree, I'm trying to look at separating the septic system from the house addition because of the fact there's no bedrooms being added to the structure. And I'm trying to balance that in my head as I'm listening and asking questions. So Mary Beth, that's all I've got right now.
Okay. Is Mr. McCardle with us yet?
Mr. McCardle, I put information in the chat. Do you want me to email you that information, or is that easier to find?
Okay, where do we go from here? Is anybody communicating with Mr. McCardle?
Yes, I sent him the phone number. It's 312-626-6799. And he's going to call us because his current connection only has video. It does not have an audio option.
And he can't hear the phone number you just gave out. Is that correct?
I think he can hear us. Larry, did you have something you wanted to add too about this petition?
I just wanted to comment a little bit on the staff's concern in regard to the septic system. It was mentioned that they want to basically be able to, they have a growing family. And, our concern is there's no record of a septic permit. It does not appear to be an area where.
Can I be heard? I'm sorry.
Yeah, David, is that you? 1 second, Dave. We'll get right to you.
Okay. I just think staff's concern would be addressed. I mean, there shouldn't be. We want all houses around Lake Limit to have a working septic system. And if it was built in the 50s, that is a concern as far as capacity and design in regard to the actual septic system and all. And so one of the things that we have requested is that they obtain a repair permit from the health department, just to show that there is a viable working septic tank, not just for the addition, but for the house that's there already. Because the area shown on the map and in the aerial photographs really does not appear to be adequate for any viable finger system. As far as the area available, there are trees growing in the area, which with roots and so on would indicate that it's difficult to think that there is a viable septic system based upon the topography of that area. And it's easily dealt with by just saying we want a repair permit from the health department as a condition. I just wanted to throw that out.
Okay. Mr. McCardle, thank you.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
And state your name for the record.
David McCardle.
Okay, sir, go ahead.
What I'm concerned about, there's several items that have been brought up. Number one, I don't think the septic is even an issue here, because where the septic exits the house is on the opposite side of the house where we will access the back. So we're going to access everything off the opposite side of the septic. And then the septic, the line that feeds the septic tank runs down that path that you can see. And then the fingers are all downhill of that. So the septic is out of the way. And the clients eliminated a whole bedroom out of this proposal in order to get that off our table. And we're still talking about it. So, so if we need to do a new septic system or we need to do anything about the existing septic, I'd like to understand why we have to even do anything with it as far as the septic tank. So we're accessing the site from the opposite side. I have no issues with whatever kind of erosion control you want us to do. The setback issue is, somebody shouldn't have given them the garage permit way back when. So the fact that you gave that has nothing to do with what's going on now. What if a previous owner did that? I mean, I just don't see how that is relevant to what we're proposing. This guy just wants a kitchen expanded. And he wants that tree not to run right through the whole house if it falls the wrong way. And that tree is on the lake side of the house. All the wind comes off that lake. So if it falls, it's going to fall against the house. So if that happens, I can guarantee the damage to whatever site damage that you're all concerned about, that damage to fix that house is going to be much worse. And then the setback, septic, the tree, we eliminated the bedroom. Mr. Dietz paid, this guy's paid probably $5,000 to have all this stuff done so that he can even find out if he's allowed to build an addition on his house. And that's just unfair. I just think this is, the fact that we've taken this long to do it. I was going to build this fall, and, that's out of the question. So now we're talking about next fall. His point about getting to mechanicals, I think is extremely valid. I mean, the guy just wants to stick in a basement under his kitchen addition. We got to tear up the place anyway to do that. So let's put a basement under it. It doesn't make sense not to. I think I've hit all the points I wanted to hit. I'm just very frustrated that this is taking this long to do. I built a 2-car garage on another house on the same lake about 2 or 3 years ago. And it took a year between when we applied for the building permit to when I got approval to build the thing. Those people spent a lot of money to do this. And then it was approved finally. But all this does is causes all of us, the bosses of all of you, to just spend more money. And frustration, and we don't have time. I don't have time tonight to be dealing with this meeting. So I think logic needs to win at the end of the day here. And I would just appreciate, you guys, if you're not going to give us approval, tell us why and what we need to do, because then we're just going to go back to the drawing board and come back with something else. And that's what we've been doing all along. So I just don't see how we can continue with all of this. So if you are going to deny us, I would ask that you give us specific things that you want to see for us to do to make this acceptable. And that's all I got to say. So I'll just listen now unless anyone has any questions for me.
Looks like Bernie has a question for you, Mr. McArdle.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. McArdle, first off, the slope issue is what we're here for tonight. The questions that come around to the questions that come around to the septic system are staff's due diligence on trying to understand the site. And my questions to Mr. Dietz with regard to, and to Tammy, our staff planner, with regard to that septic, were just out of curiosity to see if there was any evidence of failures of the system And I'm really trying to be careful not to go too far into that, but they are just genuine curiosities because again, you're not adding a bedroom. But you know, you have to remember that the burden of proof on the 18% slope is in your court. And I'm just kind of trying to guide you to be careful that telling us that we need to have a reason is that you don't meet the ordinance with the 18% slope or the 15% slope, excuse me, 15% slope. And it's your burden to tell us why that is a practical difficulty or a hardship on you that's out of control. I think I spoke from my opinion where this could go. And I think that there can be erosion control measures put in place that are reviewed by staff. I've seen this property and I know that there aren't any substantial or even insignificant erosion problems from the lifestyle and the work that was done on this house with the garage addition and just, you know, the Dietzes living there. I don't know the Dietzes. I've never visited their home, but I've seen this lot before and the pictures don't indicate that. So nothing tells me that there's a trigger here that's going to cause a problem. I think that the addition is really pretty minor. It's an existing house. That to me, a practical difficulty would be the fact that they're just trying to utilize their existing space in a very minimal way. So again, I think the burden of proof is on you. It's not on us to prove that based on our decision, because the ordinance is our proof. Okay, so I just want to try to be careful and put that out there to help you understand. And I respect the frustration and the timelines and the cost of every petitioner that comes up in front of us. And I also respect the time and effort that the staff puts in to be able to come to these conclusions. And they're not pleasant conclusions sometimes to come up with, but that's just a reality of life. So I'm going to leave it at that, Mary Beth, and then we can circle around with everybody else. I don't mean to take up too much time. Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Mr. McCardle? Larry, I see your hand is up.
I just wanted to comment that, you know, they came in with plans showing a bedroom, which required a septic permit. When we said you have to get a septic permit because you're adding a bedroom, they erased the line that created the wall that created the bedroom. The room's still there. You know, it still can be slept in, but they erased the wall to try to get around the requirement for needing a septic permit. When you make a finding, one of the findings you have to make tonight is that the granting of the variance will not affect public health. And whether or not there's an existing septic tank, even to handle the current house without any additions and without a new kitchen, is a question that's not been answered by the petitioner. And again, that's why I raised the issue about making any approval conditional upon obtaining a updated septic tank permit.
Thank you, Larry.
But Mary,
Go ahead, Brittany.
Mary Beth, the only question I've got, and this is where I really am trying to be careful, but the addition doesn't affect, as it's on paper, the petition isn't affecting on paper, the use of the septic system to any degree that requires any additional measures. And that's a point that again, I'm just being careful with that because I don't want to be in error by coming to a conclusion that's based on something that's irrelevant. If there's a problem with the septic, there's a problem with the septic with the existing house, and it is what it is. But there's nothing that's shown me that there is a problem with that septic, and therefore not adding a bedroom doesn't increase that burden. So then it's a slope issue. And I think that again, just like I said in November, and I just said now, you know, it doesn't interfere with the current system with what they're proposing as far as I can tell. So I'm not debating it. I'm just saying that's my perspective on this.
Okay, thank you, Bernie. Does any of the board have any questions for Mr. McCardle or Larry? Okay, is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition?
Yes, Bill Sauter, a neighbor.
Hi, Bill. Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm the president of the Lakewood Homeowners Association, a neighbor to Paul and Shelley. I'm on several of the committees for Lake Clement. First off, I mean, the question about the septic, I walk over and visit many times every weekend, and there's nothing squishy or there's no smells. That, as far as I know, that system does not leak. And if it did, I would report it first, being on the Lake Clement committees. My question is, being the president of the Homeowner Association, we have many, things. Everybody is making improvements to their places out there, especially in Lakewood there. People come and talk to me, can I do this and that? And I mean, there is hard to find a level piece of ground out there in Lakewood and, probably most of Monroe County. But, and they're asking me questions about so forth. And the way I see Paul's problem is he pretty much already has a retaining wall there where he wants to build out to right now. And I've had to go over there and help him one time when he wasn't there. And to get into that crawl space, it is a pain. And really, we're not extending anything on there. Yes, he's going to extend the porch a little bit and just have to put a couple posts in the ground to support the new porch. But I'm just wondering if, again, it does take a lot of time and an extra expenses, and what can be done to smooth some of these, problems out, with the zoning committees. And I think everybody's going to have a variance almost out there. I was very fortunate. A couple of years, I made some additions myself to the place, and everything went fairly smooth, and I was very happy with everything. But it seems like there's more and more problems all along. We try to keep the places up. We paved about the neighbors pitched in together, and we just repaved that gravel road out there to all these properties, the 7 properties along this street there. We weren't getting any help from Monroe County on paving it, so we just had to take it on ourselves to fix up the roads. But I do not see a problem, with his request for a variance, and I would be all for it, and so that's my 2 cents.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? All right.
I've got one more, Margaret. Our Planning Commission, Mary Beth, excuse me.
That's okay.
Mr. Dietz, would you state clearly what you see as the practical difficulty that you're experiencing on this property? I've read Mr. McCardle's letter several times, and there may be something in the packet that I've missed, but could you state clearly for us what you consider the practical difficulty you have with this petition?
I mean, the main reason why I want to fix the home or this process? Sir?
No, I'm sorry. I had to fix my mute. Okay. No, I mean, the judgment that we have to make on this is based on the practical difficulties of the site, of what your request is and why you are here, and what about the site, about the situation is a practical difficulty that you cannot overcome.
Well, the main practical difficulty is all my mechanicals are under the home in a crawl space that I have to crawl on my hands and knees to get to. And that's a problem because we have to get under there to do filters and put salt and water softener, and it's very difficult. It's a 2-foot door. And secondly, I have a tree that's 2 feet from my home, and trees in our neighborhood are falling over. So the picture one fell 3 weeks ago. So we're worried about the tree. So the tree has to come out, we're worried about it. And if I'm going to build an unfinished basement to hold my mechanicals, it makes sense for me to make the kitchen above it bigger. It won't be 2 stories above that, so there won't be any space for another bedroom. It's just taking that lower level wall out. And those are our 3 concerns. It's the mechanical room, the tree, and everybody would like to have a kitchen. We have no dining room. And that's our major, we love it there. We just want it to be a little bit bigger for us.
Does that answer your question, Bernie?
It does. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Margaret, did you have a question?
I do not.
Does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner or anybody that has spoken on behalf of this petition?
I do have a question, Mary Beth, to the petitioner. Will you be extending the deck, or will the deck just disappear on and then be just the kitchen?
No, we want to have a deck off the back. I mean, that's where we barbecue. And so we'll have a sliding door just like we have now onto a deck. So we can have a picnic table and a barbecue. Yeah, and there'll be, other than just a post in the ground to hold it up, there'll be no disruption of anything.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any further questions? Is there anyone here that wishes to speak against this petition? Seeing no one, does any member of the board have a motion ready?
I can do it, Mary Beth.
Yes, go ahead, Bernie.
Okay, in the matter of VAR-21-61A, the Dietz front yard setback to chapter 804, and VAR-21-61B, the Dietz buildable area 15% slope variance to chapter 804. In both of those requests, I move that we approve the variances based on the practical difficulties as the petitioner stated. And I think there's practical difficulties based on the fact that the addition to the home has got to be on the slopes that do exceed the area, and the only way to achieve that is with those difficulties waived that Mr. Dietz spoke of, with the conditions that the petitioners put in writing a commitment that no part of the house will be used as an additional bedroom space without first going through and getting an additional septic, or getting a septic permit inspection on the site and submit for a building plan to illustrate an additional bedroom, and that an erosion control plan be prepared for review by the MS4 operator and planning staff both, and that any disturbed areas not just be seeded, but they be sodded, so that there's immediate ground cover after the completion of the project. That's all I've got.
Does anyone wish to second that motion?
I'll second.
Hey, Larry, you want to call the vote?
Well, all the findings that you need to make too. So I want to make sure everybody agrees with all the findings. A, B, and C. Okay, the motion is to approve all, both variances for buildable area and front yard setback based upon the finding of practical difficulties and finding that the other criteria is met, including public health, safety, and welfare. Motion, favorable motion, and motion to approve. A yes vote is vote to approve both variances with the finding of practical difficulties, conditioned upon the property not being used for additional bedrooms without obtaining an updated septic permit. Is that fair enough, Bernie?
Yeah, and that any additional bedroom has to go through the building permit process.
Okay. And any additional bedroom has to go through the building process. Again, a vote in favor is vote to approve both variances based on the findings and with the conditions set forth in the motion. Margaret Clemens,
No.
Rudy Garitas,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kismarchek,
No.
Vicky Sorensen.
Yes.
Okay, it's a 2-2 vote. Would somebody like to make another motion, or typically with it's 2-2, we just continue it to the next meeting when we have 5 members? Or 3 members, as the case may be.
This looks like it's going to be continued.
Okay, we'll move this to the next agenda, at which time the hearing will be continued until that date, since there was not a vote in favor of granting both variances or a vote to deny both variances. It remains on the agenda. We'll go to the next meeting.
Okay, have a good evening and we'll see you again. Next up, we have case numbers VAR-21-64A and VAR-21-64B. And that's Drew again for us.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So this is the May minimum lot size, chapter 833, and the May side yard setback to chapter 833. It's located in Perry Township, section 14 at 3630 East Rogers Road. And it's approximately 0.91 acres. Request is the 2 design standard variances that I just stated. Purpose to construct an 840 square foot handicap accessible home addition. Proposed structure will encroach 15 feet into the required 20-foot side yard setback. And the petition site is listed as 0.91 acres. The RE1 zone, which this property is zoned, requires 1 acre. The petitioner does not qualify for a substandard lot size in chapter 833 due to a prior right-of-way dedication to Monroe County for Rogers Road in 1998. That was 1 year after the zoning ordinance went into effect. Typically, owners that dedicate right-of-way to the county are compensated commensurate to the land lost and the lack of conforming status under the zoning ordinance in effect at the time. Petition site had previous variance approval in 2004 for a side yard setback to construct a separate addition to the existing single-family residence, and that was also created on the same side of the property that this current petition is proposing. When we get to the site plan, I'll show you a little bit more detail of that. The structure that was approved in 2004 from the variance also encroaches 15 feet into the 20-foot side yard setback. So we have the location map here in the top left corner of the screen, and then a site conditions map. The area that the proposed structure will be going is actually in this area here. That's kind of covered by the trees. It's kind of difficult to see because of the shading here from the aerial photography, but the site plan will have a bit more clarity to it. Here we have the slope map. This is just pulled from Elevate. I pulled it from Elevate because it wasn't so shaded. So you can kind of see a little bit better the layout of the property. And then here we have some photographs of the petition site. So this area, the top right photograph, just zoomed out a little bit. Right in this area where my cursor is, that is the approximate location for the proposed structure. It will extend coming north into the front yard. Then this picture here kind of zooms into that area. Again, it'll come off of here and extend forward towards East Rogers Road. More photographs of the petition site. The one in the middle is kind of looking towards the road about where the proposed addition will be. Excuse me. And then here on the right photograph, you can see how close the property or the structure is to the property line or fence line. This structure that you see in this photograph is that addition that was approved in 2004. So the 5 feet here to the property line. More photographs. Top left is of the pool house in the backyard. And then we have the bottom left, which is just an image of the backyard coming from the driveway. And then a better image on the right, just of the entirety of the backyard, looking at the single family residence. Okay, so here we have the site plan. You'll note in yellow is the proposed addition, 20 feet by 42 feet. This is the proposed home, handicap accessible home office addition the petitioner is looking to build. Directly to the south of it is the addition that they built in the 2004 variance, which was also a handicap accessible structure for use in the single family residence. And then on the left side of the screen, we have the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals stating that they are looking to acquire a variance approval to get permits to construct this proposed structure. Here we have some of the information that was related to the right-of-way dedication, in case we needed to see any of that. So basically the right-of-way dedication that occurred basically caused the lot to be under the 1 acre minimum. And as it turns out, the way that works, they still do need to receive a minimum lot size variance to Chapter 833. Typically, properties in the 833 zones don't necessarily need to have a minimum lot size variance based upon some language that's included in that chapter. But after staff review and understanding the dededication process, all of that, it was determined that the minimum lot size would also be necessary for this project. Okay, so here we have the staff recommendation. Staff recommends denial of both of the variance petitions to the side yard setback, Chapter 833, and the minimum lot size, Chapter 833, basically stating that practical difficulties do not exist with the property, although there are extenuating circumstances related to the spouse of the petitioner, which compels this petition. The need for the variance is a self-created difficulty. I will now take any questions.
Does the board have any questions for Drew? Seeing none, is the petitioner here, and would the petitioner like to speak? Are Paul or Teresa May here?
Here I am.
Oh, okay. Do you swear
Yeah.
to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name.
Teresa May.
All right, you may proceed.
We have built out on this lot and we have no other options but to go north. When we built the house 20 some years ago, we weren't thinking about aging in place. And now we are. And this is where we've come to with this house. We used to build and move frequently. And we finally built one that we like. And we would like to stay here for the remainder. And this is our last hurrah, and we're needing an office space on the house. My husband has had 2 hip replacements, and I want to get him under the main house roof for his office. Right now it's in a detached garage, and it's not a good idea in our climate in the wintertime to shuffle back and forth. And that's our concern. We don't want him falling. So that's where we are in needing this approval to add the home office. And that's it.
Does the board have any questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mary Beth. I was having a hard time navigating my Zoom again. Give me just a brief second here.
You're fine.
Yeah, just a quick question. It looks like on the, I think it's the east property line, Ms. May. Is that an evergreen buffer I'm seeing there? Because I think I saw that when I drove past it, but it's coming in closer to me when I look at this aerial.
Yes, it is.
Does that buffer share the property line, or are all the trees on the neighbor or any of them on you?
Well, when we moved in here, I'm not sure where the trees are on the property line. We just had an agreement with the neighbors that if they fell in our yard, we'd take care of them. If they fell in their yard, they'd take care of them. So I don't know. These trees are really tall, really big.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any further questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? I don't see any. Is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? You don't count. I don't see any. Okay, the board does anybody on the board have a motion ready? Stop it. Anybody on the board have a motion ready?
I can do it, Mary Beth.
Okay, thank you, Bernie.
Okay, in regard to petition, VAR -21-64A, May minimum lot size to chapter 833, and VAR -21-64B, May side yard setback to chapter 833. I move that we approve the variances based on practical difficulties as stated in the petitioner's letter, and that the buildable area of the site relative to the use of the proposed addition meets those criteria, subject to the staff report, MS4 operator, and highway department.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll call the roll on the variance 21-64A and 21-64B, the May minimum lot size variance to 833 and May side yard setback, chapter 833. The motion is to approve both variances based upon the finding of practical difficulty, subject to any conditions in the staff report and reports from the MS4 operator and the highway department. Again, a vote in favor is a vote to approve both variances. Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
Mary Beth Marchek?
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen?
Yes.
Mark Clemens?
Yes.
Both variances are approved by a 4-0 vote.
Okay. Thank you, and you have a good evening. Next up, we have case numbers VAR-21-68A, VAR-21-68B, VAR-21-63B. And that is Petitioner Christy Wallace and Drew. It's please.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I just noticed that there's a typo on the staff report. It should be VAR-21-68C. I apologize for that typo.
Kind of thought that might be the case, but was reading what was there.
Thank you. Okay, so this one is the Wallace front yard setback to chapter 804, Wallace side yard setback to chapter 804, and Wallace two-family dwelling condition number 2C to chapter 802. Petition site is 0.48 acres in Richland Township, section 16, and it's located at 7163 West Tulip Street. Okay, so the petitioner intends to construct a 600 square foot carport and a 224 square foot mini barn on the property. The property is zoned state residential and contains an existing two-family dwelling. The ER zone requires a 25-foot front yard setback and a 15-foot side yard setback, as well as a 1 acre lot size. So the proposed location of the carport will encroach approximately 10 feet into the required 25-foot front yard setback. And the proposed location of the mini barn will encroach approximately 10 feet into the required 15-foot side yard setback. Typically, this petition would normally receive a request for a minimum lot size variance to the ER zone for Chapter 804. However, upon further review from staff, based upon the fact that the property is operating as a 2-family dwelling, a variance would be necessary for that standard as well. In Chapter 802, condition number 2C for 2-family dwellings, it states each 2-family dwelling shall have a lot area equal to twice that required for a single-family residence or greater. So therefore, essentially, they would require 2 acres for this property. So based upon review from planning staff, it was determined that basically the intent of condition number 2C and the minimum lot size requirement of Chapter 804 were basically getting at the same thing, so that staff only recommended requesting only 1 of the 2 variances, since it would essentially meet the same end. So that's why we have a 2-family dwelling variance request instead of just the minimum lot size. Okay, here we have the location map along with the buildable area slope map. And we'll get to the petitioner's site plan here in a moment. But just briefly, the carport will be located approximately here to the north of the structure. And then the mini barn will be located at the end of the driveway here towards the end. Some aerial pictometry of the petition site. Just get a bird's eye view of what it looks like. And then just some more images here from different directions. Okay, so here is the site plan. 20-foot by 30-foot carport located to the north of the single-family residence. Again, approximately 38 feet from center line, which will measure approximately 15 feet from the northern property line. Again, an encroachment of 10 feet into the 25-foot required setback. And then the mini barn located here, proposed location here, and it will be approximately 10 feet, excuse me, does it say 10 feet? I think so. 10 feet from the property line. So that will be, yeah, that is an encroachment into the 15-foot side yard setback, but it looks like I messed up in my calculation in the staff report. So instead of encroaching into 10 feet into the 15-foot side yard setback, it's only encroaching 5 feet. In the bottom right corner of the screen, you have the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals, basically stating that they would like to place a mini barn and carport on the property, and a little bit of rationale there included as well. Okay, so overall, staff has multiple recommendations for each of these variances. For the front yard setback, staff has recommended denial, citing that there are no practical difficulties in the fact that the front yard setback encroachment can be more effectively addressed through relocating the proposed development structure building. For the side yard setback, staff is also recommending denial, stating again, no practical difficulties in that the side yard setback encroachment can be more effectively addressed through relocating the proposed development building structure. And then finally, staff is recommending approval of the 2-family dwelling condition number 2C, basically stating that any new development / construction on this property would first require a variance for Chapter 802's condition regarding lot size for 2-family dwellings. I will now take any questions.
Does the board have any questions for Drew?
I have a question for Drew. Can you show us on the pictures where they could relocate?
Yes, so staff thinks that a carport could be relocated towards the back of the property in this area, general area that would accommodate the front yard setback. It potentially could be moved to the east more to accommodate the side yard setback as well. And then the mini barn could be relocated somewhere else in buildable area that would be accommodating of all the setbacks.
And has the petitioner, have you talked to her and is she in agreement or?
Yes, so I have spoken with the petitioner after she read the staff report. She had some questions regarding the recommendations. And basically she stated to me that the locations of the proposed structures were actually recommended to her by the builders or contractors that she had hired. They have stated to her that they're the most flat areas and that they would recommend putting them there. And she can speak more about that when her time comes to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions for Drew?
Yeah, Mary
Bernie?
Beth, you know, I've got one.
Oh, wait, yes.
Okay, so there's no septic constraints on this property, or is there, Drew? Is this site on municipal sewer or is it on septic?
We do have the septic location delineated here on the site plan. So I believe it is serviced by septic. And again, I believe the petitioner could confirm that with you.
Okay.
I believe staff worked with the petitioner actually to create this site plan. So.
Okay, and then the other question is, are these dimensions based on GIS or how are they, how do we know that what we're seeing here is they're legitimate distances from lot lines and right of ways?
Sure. So again, this site plan was created with the petitioner. She had come into the office and requested site plan assistance. So typically a planning staff member will either make measurements on Elevate and then draw those on Elevate. Like in the last petition, you kind of saw the colors delineated on the site plan. But then there are other times maybe Elevate's not working properly or there's some other time constraints. And a staff member will work with a property owner and just hand draw these measurements out using the scale bar here on the bottom left corner of the sheet.
Does that answer your question, Bernie?
Yes, thank you, Mary Beth.
Any other questions for Drew? Okay. Is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Yes, hi. Yes, I'd like to speak, please.
Could you state your name?
Yes, Christy Wallace.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I did. Proceed.
Actually, I'm a first-time home buyer, and I wasn't aware that I needed a permit or a variance until after I had purchased the mini barn and the carport that was supposed to be going on it. And at that point, after I'd already purchased it, the gentleman that I bought them from said, do you have your permit ready? And I said, I wasn't even aware I needed a permit living out in rural Bloomington. I'm used to living in a suburbs or city of Chicago. And so where there is no room to build or have stuff like this. And so so I had him come out to the site to tell me where it was. And I actually, I wanted, the original plan for me was to have the barn and the carport, I think I'm directionally challenged here, but on the east side towards the woods. I was told that excavating that portion of land would be very, very expensive to get it level and put concrete on it or gravel. And so the gentleman I purchased the barn and the carport from, he said, why don't you put it on the most level portion of your land? And that's why I actually opted to put them there at his request, because I really don't know that much about this process. So that's how it came about, those two locations.
Sorry about that. Does anybody have any questions for the petitioner? Does the board have any questions for the petitioner? No questions for the petitioners from the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, does one of the board have a motion prepared?
I'll do the motion.
Thank you, Vicki.
Okay, on case number VAR 21-68A, front yard setback, chapter 804 at 7163 West Tulip Street. I move to approve. And then on VAR 21-68B, side yard setback, chapter 804 to approve. And VAR 2163C, two-family dwelling condition, number 2C, approve.
I'll second that with a friendly amendment. Vicky, if I can do that.
Yes, you can.
I'll second that with the friendly amendment that we also have the petitioner submit with the building permit a plot plan indicating the location of the proposed structures to be constructed as shown on their. Do you accept that?
I accept that.
Hey, Larry, you want to call the roll?
I will. The vote is on variance number 21-68A, variance 21-68B, and variance 21-68C. Walls, front yard, side yard, and two-family dwelling condition 2C to chapter 802 variances. The motion is to approve all three variances based upon the finding of practical difficulties in all three variances, and subject to the condition that the petitioner, upon filing an application for a building permit, improvement location permit, submit a plot plan showing the location of both structures on a site plan, plot plan. Is that accurate, Bernie?
Yeah, by a licensed surveyor.
By a licensed surveyor. Well, you didn't say that, but I
didn't say that. I know that, and I'm sorry about that, Larry.
Okay, by a licensed surveyor. And again, planning department can provide information in that regard. Again, a motion in favor is motion to grant all three variances. Mary Beth Kismarchak,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
All three variances are approved, subject to the condition in regard to a plot plan by a licensed surveyor.
Okay. Next up, we have case numbers VAR -21-89A and VAR -21-69B. I think I said 89 before, but 89 or 69A and 69B. And Ann?
Thank you, Mary Beth. So today we have the Herber minimum lot size variance and the Herber rear yard setback variance from both from chapter 804. So the property is located in Salt Creek Township, section 8. The parcel is 2.06 acres and it's located off of Cooper Road. So these requests are for, the intent is to place a pre-built shed on the property. So it's platted within the Deer Path subdivision. It's a much older subdivision, so the property is currently zoned conservation residential. It has a minimum lot size of 2.5 acres, which negates the need for the minimum lot size variance. So the petitioners are requesting to place a pre-built shed 15 feet into the required 35-foot rear yard setback. So here on the screen, we are seeing, so this would be their rear yard, which would require 35 feet. So this is approximately 15. This is just an aerial kind of estimate to kind of get a sense of where it's placed. The side yard is 15, and it is meeting that. So let's see, the shed is approximately, it's 10 by 16, so 160 square feet. They are not wanting to do any kind of grading to place the shed. So they have staked out on their property where they'd like that to go. So without any grading, this is basically what they're saying is the flattest area. Let's see, I'm looking at my notes to the side here. There is a fair amount of buildable area on the property, although it may not be, completely flat. Let's see, I thought I had a slope map in here. One more, there we go. So the Deer Path subdivision, it shows the septic system as technically being over here, but it's actually been approved to being on the east side of the property. So, they're saying that this is the flattest area, may, be true. Most of the lot is under 15%. So technically for structures and with some grading, they would be able to place the shed somewhere within a location that would be able to meet the rear yard setback and other setbacks. So for that reason, we are recommending, staff recommends approval of the minimum lot size because it is a pre-existing lot. It has been platted. And we are recommending denial for the rear yard setback because there are other locations for placement of the shed. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Ann from the board? Seeing none. Is the petitioner here and would they like to speak?
Yes, this is John Herber.
Mr. Herber, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Proceed, please.
Could who's ever controlling the slides go back to the aerial view, please? Got one right there. Thank you. When you look at this plot, number one, the aerial view plot lines really don't show where the agree necessarily with what is staked by my neighbor's surveyor. But that red box would actually be about twice its width to the right in that lower right-hand picture. So while it looks it's very close to the edge, it really wouldn't be. That this picture doesn't show exactly how things are now, and I don't know if that changes anything in terms of the variance. The reason that area was picked was to be able to access the driveway and not just destroy any of the aesthetics of looking out the front yard. The other issue is that this plot was never ever filed with the state. I've asked twice and I don't know why. This was plotted in the early 90s, I believe. And if we move it out to the flatter area of the front yard, which is at the bottom part of that right-hand picture, or it's hard to say, we actually start to get close to the front frontage because my lot is landlocked. It's a rectangle that sets lengthwise across those two pictures. You can see it in the right-hand picture. that it goes across. And it doesn't really show on the right or left-hand picture, excuse me, where the other line is, which it delineate the front of the lot. So my point is that I don't know that there is other alternate areas to do that. It's not a permanent structure, it's a temporary structure. And I don't think you received any feedback from any of my neighbors that object to it. So I would, that's all I have to say for that issue.
Does any of the board have any questions for the petitioner?
Yeah, I've got one, Mary Beth. Is the proposed building or shed, so you're not attaching it to the ground, or is it when you slide in, are you setting it on posts, a concrete pad? If I missed that in Ann's very good description, I apologize in advance.
No, there is no, it's going to sit on a gravel pad. So the excavator that I plan to use has done this before. He comes in, removes enough soil to level the land, and then sets gravel, compacts it, and then the structure is set on it off of a flatbed.
Okay, so you're not affixing it to 4x4 or 4x6 posts or anything then?
Nope.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Is there any further questions for the petitioners from the board? Not seeing any. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Okay, does anyone on the board have a motion ready to present at this time?
I can go ahead and do one.
Thank you, Vicki.
Okay, on case number VAR-21-69A, minimum lot size from chapter 804, and this is at 1891 South Cooper Road. I move to approve. VAR-21-69B, rear yard setback from chapter 804, move to approve.
Second.
Yeah, I will call the roll on VR 21-69A and VR 21-69B. The motion is to approve both variances based upon finding a practical difficulty in both variances and subject to any conditions in the staff report. Again, a motion in favor is a vote to approve both variances. Vicki Sorensen,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
Mary Beth Smartcheck.
Yes.
Both variances are approved by a 4-0 vote.
Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have case numbers VAR-21-70A and VAR-21-70B. And that is Ann again. Thank you. Ann?
Thank you. All right, so we have a little switch up. So the first variance, which it was from chapter 804 for buildable area, we no longer think that this is applicable, and I'll go into that here in just a little bit. The second variance that was applied for was from being located within the Eco Area 1 from the 12% slope restriction from chapter 825. So the property is located in Clear Creek Township, section 36 off of Prince Road. It is 6.47 acres. Okay, so currently the property is undeveloped, and the petitioners are requesting these variances to construct for the purpose of constructing a single family home. So it's on the basically shore of Lake Monroe, steep slopes down to the lake. Let's see, most of the property are slopes that are very steep slopes that exceed 12%, 15%. So this is the proposed site plan. I did geo-reference this site plan with one of our slope maps. So got a dog in the way. So the first variance, which we thought originally was applicable, so they had applied for a building permit. At the time, we thought that a variance from chapter 804 for the 15% slope restriction was going to be applicable for this scenario, but with their current plans, we're not seeing necessarily disturbance within 15%. It would only be the 12% for the eco area. So although the property is 6.47 acres, there's a roughly 0.4 of buildable. So Prince Road is private at this point, and it's just a pretty small space for having a single family residence, driveway, septic field. So this is their current proposed plan, same as the last slide, but I geo-referenced it on our standard slope map, which, you know, colorizes slope percentage. So we can kind of see they are trying to preserve what appears to be, you know, some pretty large trees here at the front of the property, which puts the single family residence further into the slope, into the 12%, exceeding the 12%. They would have some retaining walls here. So here it's a little more difficult to see, but this would be the house footprint, but kind of disturbance footprint is this line here. So site visit photos, it's a small area. So these are some of the trees that they're trying to preserve. This is the adjacent property. Not a lot of room here between their mowed line is pretty accurate right about here. So that's helpful. It helped me. Would be a driveway kind of around this tree, septic field back here, and a house setback. If you can see the mouse cursor. So really not a lot of area to work with trying to preserve these trees, larger trees. Staff does find that with the removal of those trees, you would be able to move the septic forward, move the house forward, and not encroach into those slopes. So for that, we're saying that the buildable area variance from chapter 804 no longer applicable. So we just like to take that off the table completely. So the variance from the eco area 1 encroachment at 12% slopes, we are recommending denial because this single family residence and the septic location could be moved forward. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question real quick, Ann. Yeah. They cannot be moved forward without removing those trees. Is that correct? Those trees would have to be removed for it to be moved forward.
Looks like it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Ann?
I wonder if the trees are dead ash trees.
Do we know what kind of trees they are?
I did not do any tree ID, but maybe the petitioner does.
Okay, any other questions for Ann?
Larry has his hand raised.
Oh, hi, Larry.
I just want to point out one of the things we talked about in staff, there would be an option to flip the septic tank with the house, just switch them, and that would remove the need to have such a long driveway, and there would be adequate room for the house more forward rather than going back into the steep slopes. That was one of the reasons for the recommendation of denial.
Okay. And any more questions for Ian or Larry? Seeing none, I see Mr. Bailey is here. Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes,
State your name.
Craig Bailey,
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, proceed, please.
Yeah, we met with the health department when we were trying to do this, and they felt the septic field would be best in the front, which is what kind of pushed the home to where it's at. There is a pretty big front yard setback too, and a side yard setback, which shrinks a lot of that blue area that's on the screen as well. So everything we did, we tried to keep it, everything definitely within the 15% slope. And we've only gone over the 12% slope, just a little bit in a few areas, but that was kind of our goal, and to try to minimize the damage that would be done to the site. So we're trying to preserve the front trees and then take advantage of everything else that's on the lot right there.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bailey?
I don't have a question maybe for Mr. Bailey, but Ann, could you on the aerial, could you just do kind of a cursor of where the proposed plan is for the home and the septic? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, it does. So these boundary lines, of course, are always a little off, but they look even more skewed on pictometry. So I'm gonna say probably this property boundary is actually probably right about here. You can see kind of that natural curve. Again, this is estimating. I would think the house would probably start back here. So I think the drive would be like this. And septic over here.
Okay, it looks like where the septic is probably further away from the lake. That's kind of what I was wondering. Thank you.
Yeah.
And, yes, Mr. Bailey, do you happen to know what kind of trees those are out front? And can you answer Vicky's question from earlier?
I do not off the top of my head.
I believe that was Margaret's question. Okay. Is there anyone else here or any further questions for Mr. Bailey? Okay. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this petition?
The owners, John and Beth Susnick, are also here. I'm Craig Stye. I'm also with Bailey and Weiler.
Okay.
Yes, we just wanted to state that, we are trying to do our best to minimize damage to the mature.
I need to swear you in.
Okay,
Actually.
I'm sorry.
You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name.
Beth Susnack.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. We are doing our best with working with Bailey and Weiler to preserve as many of the trees, as we can around there. We believe that a lot of them are poplar. Any dead trees have already, mainly fallen over, but we're trying to work with keeping the septic away from the lake area to where the health department suggested it, and then try to minimize any other encroachment into the 15% slope and just tuck it in there as best as we can.
Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Susnick? No. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on behalf of this petition? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would like to speak against this petition? Seeing none, does one of the board members have a motion ready?
I'll do a motion.
Okay, thank you, Vicky.
Okay, on case number VAR-21-70 at 5434 East Prince Road, on Echo Area 1 at 12% slope from Chapter 825, I move to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, I'll call the roll. We'll vote us on VR-21-70A and 2170B. Sussex Buildable Area Variance to Chapter 804 and Sussex Eco Area 1, 12% slope variance to 825. And I'm going to basically take a vote on both of them just in case there's any error in the buildable area when the final plans come in. Based on the finding of practical difficulty, again, a vote in favor is vote to approve both variances. Margaret Clemens,
Yes.
Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
Mary Beth Kasmarchuk,
Yes.
Vicki Sorensen.
Yes.
Both variances are approved by a 4-0 vote.
Have a good evening. All right, I believe that concludes our meeting this evening. Does legal have anything for us?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you, David.
If you have any questions, though, about anything.
Anyone have any questions for David? Nope. All right. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Hey, Mary Beth, I've got a couple observations that I want to make here briefly, if I can.
Okay.
One is, I don't want to get specific to petitions, but on petitions where sites are fully contained within, on sites that are completely contained or realistically contained within a restriction that is no fault of the owner. I don't know why practical difficulties wouldn't be investigated further or discussed a little bit more in the reports. And I don't really need to have an answer for these, or these are just observations. They're not critical. But that question came up to me as I was reviewing the petition and then heard the presentation, because a lot of times the presentation expands from the actual staff report. And then secondly, I think when I look at these petitions and I see what the improvement or the proposed improvement may be, it may not be an example of something that's perfect with what's existing at the time, but I try to look at it as what is the impact on something that isn't perfect or we don't necessarily have all the answers to. What is the impact of what a petitioner wants to do relative to the concerns? Because there are other vehicles that we have as a county, even as a citizen, that we can take measure on to protect the health, welfare, and safety that may not be relevant to what a petition actually adds to the property or takes away from a property. So those are just a couple highlighted points that I was thinking through this evening as I was going through some of the presentations and then in the report. So thanks for the indulgence. And like I said, it's not meant to be critical, but they're just questions that are observations that maybe I'm going to start kind of assessing as I go through these petitions, maybe in a different way. Thank you, Mary Beth.
All right. Thank you, Bernie.
I just want a quick response to Bernie is practical difficulties is basically based upon the real estate, not the people that are asking for the variance. So somebody may need it because their family's growing or they have no place to put their car. That's not technically a grounds for a variance. It's practical difficulties with the land. Okay. At least that's how the statute reads. It's based upon the land, not necessarily the individual circumstances of the petitioner. The other thing is that we're getting a lot of these septic tank cases because, frankly, we've got sites that were never intended to be built on until the real estate market got really good, and people started living year round at Lake Limit. And that's why we're getting some of these issues with septic tanks. And I will note that there's a bill presently pending in the Indiana General House of the Indiana General Assembly, which will add a paragraph to the findings you have to make on development standards variance, that the granting of the variance will not impact either a septic tank or a well. So that you may have that to look forward to in the future in regard to evaluating. And you know, again, these are tough ones. You know, the ones that get to you are the tough cases. And we appreciate any guidance or input you have. You know, let us know if we're not giving enough information or you think we're going the wrong track. We've cut down on the amount of information we've provided to try to like make the reports more readable. And maybe we went too far. We need to add more information back in if you feel like there's not enough information.
No, I'm okay with it, Larry. And since you elaborated a little bit, I think that the physical conditions of the property are I won't say it's 100% of my thought process, but of course it's why we're here, because it has to do with the land, right? I mean, and then, you know, I think practical difficulties lend themselves to other factors that are related to the land and what people's expectations are for that land. So I think I'm okay with that. I think that as far as the, you know, since you brought up examples such as Lake Lemon, not tying this to any specific petition, again, I think you said it on this one with the new law or the legislation that may be coming up. That's exactly what I said. Does the impact of any proposal add to the current situation? And that's exactly what I said. And that's why I really kind of balance on the edge of the knife on some of these questions on occasion, because, you know, it's does the petitioner's request add to that factor or add to a difficulty or some sort of public health, welfare, and safety issue that may be associated with the property. So that's why I brought those up. But that's good information on the legislation. I appreciate that very much, and I think I'm consistent with that in my thought process. And the practical difficulties of the land, 100% with you. So thank you very much.
I just want to, you know, there was an argument made that practical difficulties kind of should guarantee somebody the right to build. But if a piece of land has a huge slope that we have said should not be built on, I don't consider that to be a practical difficulty. It's like a requirement, you know. It's like what we're doing as a community to protect our water source. So I don't know. I don't know the practical difficulty arguments that are made. Sometimes I think go a little bit too far, because the presumption is that the site should be built on, and maybe that's not always true. That's what I think, you know, that some of them are just too steep to build on, too close to the road to build on. And just because they own it doesn't mean they get to build on it with all the regulations that exist.
Hey, Mary Beth is an albino Wookiee.
He's been so good tonight.
Yeah.
He's a good baby. But I think he would like to make the motion that we adjourn.
I think it's a good idea.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll all go get some kibble.
Bye.
All right. Have
Thanks,
a
everybody.
Live long
Have
and
a good
prosper, guys.